Wix Studio, one end-to-end web creation platform for your agency to deliver exceptional work with absolute efficiency.
The #1 long-form writer that helps SEOs outrank competition at the click of a button using real-time research and NLP. Start ranking content today with content@scale.ai.
Yes, hi everyone. Yes, I was categorically against going into SEO, but as you can see, that changed and I love it now. And today, I will give you a little bit of a taste of an SEO product manager's job, and I really hope that by the end of this presentation, we will have a unanimous answer to the question in this title, are SEOs like architects? In order to kind of put ourselves into the right mindset, I would love to start with a little exercise. No worries, you don't have to do much, but I would like to ask you to please visualize something for me, okay? Please imagine that you are lying on an island. The sun is shining and you are holding a cocktail in your hand. Now imagine that this is your very own island resort. But there is one big problem. In order to drive tourists to your island and hence make some money, you will need to build a bridge. You can do this one of two ways. One, you hire a group of handymen and you just let them loose. This will cost you 25K, however, you are guaranteed to continuously have to fix this bridge, which will cost you additional money every single year. Your other option is to hire an architect to design a proper, durable structure for your bridge. If you go with this option, this will cost you a little bit more upfront, but you are guaranteed to never have to touch this bridge ever again. Which one do you choose? The second? I see second. You choose to hire an architect? Yes, so I'm happy to hear that the memo was clear. SEOs are like architects. Let them be involved in the foundations, and you will need to worry less about fixing things later. For example, we can start by including SEOs at the beginning when it comes to structural changes, or involving them again when it comes to SEO-relevant technical questions. But once in this product area, SEOs can do so much more. Just by purely listening, they can contribute to products that work for both the search engine and, importantly, the human user. Now, it has been so exciting when we started to truly listen to our human users. We have conducted multiple surveys and interviews, and we are continuously working on building such feedback into the work we do. Now, to kick off with a little bit of theory, product discovery is the biggest new focus my team has since we moved to the product area. This is basically where the product team comes together to refine their ideas by first understanding existing user problems, and second, validating potential solutions before moving into development. Now, a product team would be normally made up of your product triangle, so that would be your product management, UX, and engineering. But in such a process, you can and should include other cross-departmental participants. Who that will be will really depend on the product itself. It is important that a solution is feasible, usable, and sellable, such as, of course, it should also make sense for your business. And you can already start thinking about this in the problem space of product discovery. That is where you basically understand user needs, and then you define, validate, and prioritize the problem to solve. Now, validation of this problem is basically when you ask the question, should we make this? Does it make sense? And for this, you can use prototyping techniques like concierge tests or landing pages, short videos, and so on. Now, when you move into the solution space, you will ideate, prototype, and test. Technically, product discovery should never stop, but run continuously parallel to development and delivery efforts. And it should include deep interviews, benchmarking, and iterative testing of prototypes. It is not easy, though, to kind of build this continuous product discovery into your DNA. It has also been difficult to us, and we are still not doing it perfectly, admittingly. However, you should try. Now, you can start by, for example, utilizing other models along your product discovery. We have been using design sprints with the work that we have done so far, but it's important to state that design sprints are not an equivalent for product discovery. Why? Well, because in a design sprint, you only spend around 20% of your time in the problem space, whereas the majority of your time is spent in the solution space. And it is also an only 4 to 5 day process. So design sprints are ideal for rather simple problems, or, for example, when you already validated your problem in the problem space and you are ready to kind of intensively develop that idea further. We have used this kind of process with 2 product works so far, product iterations, or at least those were led by SEO product managers. One of them an entirely new page type for Ladenzeile, our second-hand entry page. As you can see, it kind of became a navigational hub with a lot of internal linking opportunity and helpful content. And we also gave a more modern touch to our new main menu, but unfortunately, due to some resource shifts, this is not yet live on Ladenzeile, but hopefully sooner than later. But today, we will use the product card rework. Not the best name, but you will understand what I mean. And I have been the SEO product manager on this job, so I'm super excited to be able to share with you the process up to this point. But first, let's make sure we all understand when I say product card, this is what I mean, basically how we represent our partner shop's items on Ladenzeile. And it is an extremely important component for us because it makes up most of the content on our site. And for example, the item name also contributes to our keyword profile. And any change that we make on this component could have an impact on important user signals like bounce rate, time spent on page, or for that matter, conversion rate. So no wonder that there has been a lot of research and testing done on this in the past, but never really looking at the product card in its own right. So this is what we decided to do now. And of course, we started by gathering all these previous insights. And after that, we actually opted to carry out 2 surveys in order to understand the information need of users. Reason we did this because we are not a regular e-commerce, we are a product comparison site, so we assumed it might be a little bit different there. Now, what we did learn is that, unfortunately, our current product card does not meet the information need of users. So we opted to carry out a design sprint, or have to admit a spin on that design sprint, because we kind of exchanged the exercises a little bit from a standard design sprint, but nevertheless, you will see what I'm talking about. So let's move on to this kind of practical side. On day 1, we started with the goal setting exercise. Here we, for example, defined the long-term goal. You can think of this a bit like a highly optimistic view of what the product may look like in, say, 6 to 12 months. Metrics and risks were also defined, and risks are a little bit on the other side of the spectrum. This is the first time when you can be more pessimistic and think about anything that may go wrong, any blockers. I would like to take a second here to bring us back to our architect's example. I like to think of definitions like foundations of a bridge. It is an absolutely essential exercise to set yourself up for success for the rest of the week, so do spend enough time here. This was followed by the lightning demo, which is sort of a competitor inspiration. Here, participants are asked to bring solutions, like screenshots of solutions from other platforms that they really liked or found interesting, and to explain what they liked about it. This can act as inspiration later. But first, we put ourselves into the user's shoes via empathy mapping. Here we took our personas as a base, and admittingly, it is not easy to switch your mindset from being sort of a stakeholder in this meeting room to think like a user. But it's possible. So we have noted down, well, we went first, of course, to Ladenzeile, and we looked at the product cards, and we noted down how what we thought and felt, what we actually read and saw, and also our pains and gains. And finally, on day 1, we finished up with the how might we problem-solving questions, which is a design thinking exercise, and it helps you kind of to get towards defining your problem. So this is why here I need to already share with you one learning. If I could go back to that workshop now, I would definitely switch around this exercise and the competitor inspiration. Why? Because the competitor inspiration is already looking forward to the solution space, whereas this is still in the problem space. So yeah, if you do decide to go with a design sprint, then I recommend you do that. The second day then was totally spent in the solution space, and this is where we started with sketching. The crazy 8 technique is basically where you have 8 minutes for 8 rough sketches, so not a lot, but it's all right. And then we kind of added little stickies to the sketches that we liked, and also left some notes and so on. Admittingly, these steps, so like the light or the heat map, so a little bit of an unlimited voting, etc., you should be doing on a solution sketch. However, collectively in the team, we decided in this time to skip solution sketches and instead allow participants in the round with a design background to create already digital mock-ups, which then the designer could take into account for the prototype. After, of course, the mock-ups were ready, we went back for a design review, we provided our feedback, etc., and the first prototype was born. And we brought it into user testing. This time we opted to carry out 10 moderated user interviews, 5 for fashion and 5 for living and lifestyle. And the interesting thing here was that as opposed to our other 2 examples where we actually recruited participants through an online platform, this time we tested with acquaintances who met our specs for entirely free. So the only reason I'm telling you this because the main goal is that you get in touch with your users. In B2C, it's easier maybe than in B2B. And of course, if you can test with your existing users, that is even more beneficial. After that, we of course received a lot of feedback, so we had to iterate on our prototype, and we opted to carry out another survey with 40 participants, and we were happy. However, we had to make the call not to just go ahead with a sort of one day to the next entirely new product card, because some of the changes that we envisioned would have required a lot of resources for a start, and we just envisioned so many little changes, each of which could have a different impact on KPIs, that we had to admit to ourselves we weren't done yet with validation. So right now, we are in this experimentation phase where anything that we manage to validate in a more quantitative way, we will also develop. Talking about experimentation, this has been the biggest project that I had ever worked on when it comes to the sheer size of experiments. So we had to make sure that we were very, very well organized. This is why we, for example, use this experiment map where we kind of noted out all the experiments with all its details, from the problem statement to hypothesis to the test design, as well as the results after the test was done. This is very beneficial not only for planning purposes, but also for communication. And because of the amount of experiments, we also had to prioritize. In this case, we decided to opt for the ICE method, so we prioritize based on impact, confidence, and effort. Now, once an experiment is done, you cannot just sit back. You know, that's not going to help you. You need to decide what are the next steps. This is where iteration comes in. And an iteration could be simply that you had a significantly positive result and you decide to roll out. But more often than not, you will end up with either statistically insignificant results or statistically negative results, in which case you will need to ask yourself some questions, and you may need to go back and iterate on your solution, or you need to go back all the way to your hypothesis or the problem and think about what you could do differently. Iterations are a tiny bit like the definitions. People tend to kind of want to quickly get over it, but it's an essential exercise as well. All right, and yeah, of course, this has been a very big project. Honestly, it grew itself into a little bit of a monster, so we did make some mistakes. I would like to share some of these with you now with the hope that you can learn from our mistakes. So first of all, it is a problem to have no problem definition. Technically, you should never even get out of the problem space without a validated problem. But I felt this on my own skin in this very product card rework project, because we thought we had a problem definition, but we actually didn't have anything down on paper until much later in the process, and this did come back to haunt us in the form of a lot of stakeholder questioning, as well as an overall confusion in the team, to be honest. Talking about confusion in the team, we also had no clear description of roles and responsibilities in this ad hoc team, which could be okay, but as mentioned, this became a very big project. So we even had a sort of split ownership between 2 SEO product managers in the beginning. It doesn't work. There's no real leadership then. So yeah, obviously we made some changes here. I also created some documentation about the roles and responsibilities, communication plan, and so on. And then from then on, the project was much smoother. I also feel we underestimated potential blockers, to be honest. For example, we managed to validate certain changes from a conversion rate uplift perspective, and then we either ran into legal issues or we were just freaking out at SEO. We were like, nah, we could lose keywords, whatever. So currently, we are actually running an SEO split test for one of these changes to either sort of validate or mitigate the fear, so to say. Hopefully, we can, mitigate it, and in that case, we can get that conversion rate uplift. All right, yeah, we did mistakes, but we don't let this bring us down because we believe that failing can become a success as long as we learn from it. And by failing fast, we can even learn faster. Talking about learning, some key takeaways for you here. As mentioned already a few times, it is very important to have clear definitions and to set them early on. Also, user testing doesn't always need to be complicated or expensive. As mentioned, you can find some ways around it. Main thing, you interact with users. Also, such cross-departmental work truly promotes buy-in, which will then also help you get the resources you need, which is, as we know, usually the issue for SEOs. And finally, if you do opt for a design sprint, and especially if you want to kind of move away from a set design sprint, you should definitely include your designer in picking the right exercises. Talking about exercises, here is an absolutely no way fully inclusive list of exercises you may use along such process. We didn't cover all of those today, but I had experience with all of them. And you can just in general find a lot of information online about design sprints, also design thinking exercises, and so on. And with that, we're actually coming up to the end, so I really hope that this presentation was helpful, that you were able to learn something, or at the very least take away some inspiration, and that just like an architect would do, you will contribute to strong foundations. With that, thank you so much.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.